State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, Governor Abbott has issued his executive order earlier this week that essentially would ban a vaccine mandate by any entity, not only local government entities, which was in place before, but now the private sector as well. What's your thought on that?
I think it is an unforced error. It is another incident of partisan primary pandering dictating policy. I think the business community is outraged and alarmed. I think the public is tired of it. And I think it's ill-considered, and I think it's poorly drafted. There are lawyers around the state with clients in a panic about what they need to do, and no one really knows what this thing means. Is it what it purports to be, a ban on vaccine mandates, or is it something else? There's a clause in there for personal conscience. Does that mean just, I don't feel like it? Is a religious exemption, well, my religion teaches me to honor my parents and my parents don't want me to take the vaccine? Does it apply to hospitals? I guess it does on its face. It just really creates a mountain of problems. And here's really the tragedy of the whole thing. I think the communications message was mishandled by the Biden administration when they came out, and this is a reaction to it. When the Biden administration announced that they're going to require employers to require vaccines, the story was vaccine mandate. But what it really is, and what Abbott should do, is have a testing mandate with a vaccine exemption. Right? Everybody has to test once a week unless you're vaccinated. That would take care of this. Instead, it's like a big gas can fire, partisan stuff, anti-science. It's a mess.
So that would be your recommendation on both the federal and state level?
Yeah, it actually is what the federal policy, once OSHA puts it out there, will be, that you can test in lieu of a vaccine. I prefer that if I'm the employer, I might well require vaccines, and that's my right as an employer. But I think a solution to this, if Abbott feels the need to interfere with private businesses and the medical judgment of hospitals to the detriment of our economy and our public health, if he really feels compelled by that, he could simply say every employer who requires a vaccine must give their employees the option to have weekly testing or twice a week testing in lieu of a vaccine. That would take care of it. One of the problems with that, however, is that this state and this country has failed to invest adequately in the production of rapid tests. We should have scaled that up massively on a state level and on a national level, because I'm a little concerned that if Abbott does the smart thing right now and works in what I'm suggesting here, that we simply have the option to test, we may not have enough tests available. I hope we do, but that's the other problem. This whole thing's been mishandled.
And, you discussed, this, what a lot of companies are going through right now in Texas, this federal mandate versus state mandate, and they're competing against one another. And so, all the legal experts I spoke with say the federal trumps the state.
Absolutely.
So what do you think the reason, because the governor, this was a change for the governor. Beforehand, he did let the private sector decide for itself how to handle this. What do you think is behind the change?
It's pure partisan politics. The governor is a lawyer. He was the attorney general of the state. He understands federal preemption. But this gets everybody angry at the federal government, which is good for primary partisan politics. It's bad for public health. It's terrible for our economy, which is why the Greater Houston Partnership and the Dallas Regional Chamber have both come out in support of businesses being able to set their own policies with respect to COVID vaccinations. Similar statements have come out, of course, from hospitals. So again, it's an unforced error, and it's a profoundly harmful mistake. It's just pushing our divisions deeper.
Let me ask you, because the governor has asked that the legislature within the remaining week take his executive order and make it into state law. And I know the state Senate has its version of the bill, Senate Bill 51, which there's going to be a hearing on tomorrow. The House has its own version of the bill, House Bill 155. Right. And they are different. I took a look at them, and one of the things that I noticed that there was a difference in is the House bill would give employees an opportunity to file suit, where not that I saw, I didn't see any discussion of penalties in the Senate bill. Have you had a chance to read both bills, I guess, and what's your thought on those?
I did last night, in fact. I'm bothered by both of them. I think they're both, again, profound mistakes driven by primary partisan politics, Republican primary partisan politics. The most alarming element is the private cause of action in the House. Once again, we've done this in a number of places where we're encouraging Texans to sue each other. And we're giving somebody a private cause of action against an employer who, typically we allow employers to set their own rules of employment. I think it's a hornet's nest, unnecessary division among Texans. We used to have a great deal of respect for employers being able to not only set the rules for their own workplace, protect their own employees. I mean, I've got a friend who runs a small kitchen. They deliver meals around town. 6 people working in a kitchen. Should 5 of them be exposed because one of them doesn't want to get a vaccine? Or should that employer be able to dismiss an employee who refuses to get vaccinated?
And as far as for now, as I understand it, the governor's executive order would allow fines to be issued against companies that don't comply with the executive order, but it's left up to the local governments to pursue that, to enforce it. So, depending on whether you're in Dallas County or maybe Collin County, where those judges feel differently about vaccine mandates, the level of enforcement could depend on where you are in the state. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's an excellent point. We have a lot of discussions in the legislature about local control versus having statewide policy, and businesses don't like having 1,200 different policies or 254 different policies. So again, this is inconsistent with what we've heard out of the legislature and the executive offices for the last 20 years. And it creates more problems. Businesses do, in many cases, have a right to expect consistency in the law. I'm bothered by it so fundamentally. It's hard to imagine that we would go down this road. I want to point one other thing out. I have filed bills this session that have not been referred, that are likely not to be referred or get a hearing, specifically permitting public institutions like public hospitals to require their employees to be vaccinated. And it also specifically says, and the governor's powers under 418 will not trump this law. I'd like to see that go into effect. And I didn't realize that provision would be so relevant, because I just didn't think we would find ourselves here. It's really shocking.
What Senate bill was that, and which was that in this current session?
I filed in both the second special session and this third special session. It's Senate bills 30, 31, and 32. I believe it's Senate Bill 30 that specifically addresses the point we just talked about, that public entities shall have the right to require vaccination. I'm particularly concerned about hospitals. But I also have provision that says that with regard to customers, the debate right now is about employees, but also with respect to customers. Venues like a bar or a movie theater or a concert venue should be able to require patrons to show proof of vaccination or a rapid test, so that they're not becoming a super spreader event. And I specifically have a bill that says there's no private right of action for anybody against a venue that requires a vaccination. I mean, there are better ways to handle this, and I'm putting them before the legislature. I wish they would get picked up.
And my last question to you, and we discussed this a little bit, is, there's only a week left, less than, during this special session. And so how concerned are you that there might be a 4th special session?
I'm concerned for a number of reasons. Legislators are tired. We expected to be done May 31st. We're now going to be finishing up 10 months in a row, essentially without a break. I know there are some spaces, but we've been going. And the way our government is set up, you're supposed to be able to go home and spend time with your families and your business and your community. And we're not able to do that. And there is exhaustion and exasperation, and people are getting fed up with it. And in addition, every time we have another special session, we get another slew of Republican primary bad policy. So I'm worried about it from the individual legislator standpoint, and I'm worried about it from a policy standpoint. We need to go home and get back to our communities, finish our work here, and be done with all this.
State Senator Nathan Johnson of Dallas, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Jack. Good to be with you.